Well, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for coming out. What a fantastic big crowd. It's nice to see you all here. We're really excited to welcome you and to be here today to talk to you a little about what we do. We are going to have a little time at the end for questions, if you have them, so if you could save them to the end. But again, we're really happy to be here. So I'm very happy to start off by introducing both a colleague and a friend. We've worked together for many, many years, Sanford Panitch.
Thank you, Jeffrey. I think we're going to talk today about the process and where content is found by the company, where we find ideas, and how to sell them to the audience. So I think let's first kick off. Let me also say a word about Jeffrey. Jeffrey and I worked together at Fox, where I had many different roles, and one of them was overseeing local production at the time. So I came to Korea many times trying to figure out a way to make Korean films. And then in my current role at Sony, I oversee the motion picture group, which has the film labels in the company. Columbia Pictures and TriStar, Screen Gems, Sony Pictures Animation, Acquisitions. Jeffrey is known as our head of brand management and promotions. And at Fox, Jeffrey made Simpson stores exist in China. He put Ice Age in the Ice Capades, and then did the extraordinary deal for bringing Audi into the Spider-Man films, which was a groundbreaking promotional partner for us. So we'll talk about all that as we move ahead, but I'll start off with you, Jeffrey.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, as Sanford said, we worked together at 20th Century Fox for close to 20 years, and both left before the company was sold to Disney and went to Sony together, where several Fox people do. We've had the good fortune in our careers to work on many movies that I hope you have all enjoyed, from Avatar to the X-Men films, and then at Sony, of course, to the Spider-Man films, Spider-Man being the #1 highest box office grossing film at the company. We'll talk to you about some of the other films too. But the slate at Sony is so diverse, it gives us a chance to work on a real variety of different products, which we're very happy to do. So I wanted to start off. Can everybody see? Oh, there you go. It's behind me on the right. This is a memo. And I think this memo has a lot of applications to what we all think about in the marketing or the creation of brands or products. And at Sony, we're creating 15 to 18 brand new brands every single year. So this internal email, I think if you take a look and spend just a moment, you'll see that there are a lot of really important directives that should inspire anybody of any business, which is why we wanted to show it to you today. And I'll just pick a couple. Number 2, for example, we're on offense, always, all the time. We constantly have to be selling. It is true. We are in a 24-hour business. We are in a very rare business in the sense that all of our brands launch in one day. If we open a movie on a Friday and it's open to a good number, then we can be successful. If, unfortunately, it does not open, it's over. There are no other brands in the world that have a one-day success rate. So that's really important to always be on. It is definitely a battle as much as a business. Not to say that it's not fun and interesting and motivating, but it's absolutely a battle. And if you look at like number 7, where it says your job isn't done until the job is done, that's something we also live by. And we have to. Again, because our entire business is based on a one-day success. One day, if it opens, then we live. If not, it's over. Then we are always working to the very last second. We're working every single day up until that Friday to make the movie successful. Number 9 says it won't be pretty. Well, that's true sometimes. It's not the easiest of businesses. It's unique, it's exciting, it's invigorating, but it's not always pretty. We get down and dirty and meet constantly. We do not punch a clock from 9 to 6. We are there whatever it takes. If you have to work a weekend, if you have to work late, whatever it takes to get the job done, because again, we've got that one shot. And if we look at number 10, it says we do things right, we'll actually be successful and make money. Usually that's the case. So that internal memo is actually not a Sony internal memo. And what's interesting about this memo is what is on it is applicable when it was written and applicable today. Any idea, what do you guys think when it was written? Was it written recently? Because it feels like it could have been done in the last few days. And in fact, no, it was not. It was written in 1977 by the director of marketing at Nike. But what's most important, even though we're not a shoe business, they're selling brands, we're selling brands. Every single thing that is on that email, and now I give it to you with the Nike logo so you can see, in fact, it really was Nike. What is written here is applicable to our businesses, to all of your businesses, to the businesses that you will one day get into, and it's eternal. Even though it was written many, many, many years ago, what was written then is still relevant today. Because at the end of the day, marketing and what we do to create product and sell product is eternal in that sense. So we thought that was a really interesting memo when we came across it, even though it was written a long time ago. So as I said, our business is unique. We have these new brands that we have to release. And there are many companies that release new brands. If Coca-Cola is coming out with a new soda, that's a big job. But they're not going to come out with 15 or 20 new sodas every year. Would not be possible. But our business is based on that. So we're storytellers at heart. And I thought the best way to get started would be to have Sanford kind of walk us through the process of storytelling at Sony Pictures and in the movie business.
I think that memo is relevant, but of course it's much harder today. Because when that memo was written, there wasn't the level of competition for the film business, from the streamers to video games to the volume of television content. So I think what that memo says to me is that we have to do everything on that memo, but even more. And I think that for us, we're in the theatrical film business. And even the word movie doesn't really mean movie anymore. Someone will say, I saw a movie. They're not necessarily referring to a movie in the theater. And yet our business is getting people to the theater. And think of the challenge that, especially for the younger people in the audience, of going to a theater. The cost is expensive. You have to go at a certain time. You're not really supposed to use your phone. It's long. These are incredible barriers to getting people to go to a movie theater. So the challenge for us has been to find compelling enough stories that can get people to go to the theater and worthy of a theater experience. And I think if you take the concept of brands, which Jeffrey just brought up, launching, when you think of a movie studio, which because all year long we release films, they're essentially 15, we release about 15 films per year. We are essentially launching 15 brands every single year. How do we make those brands relevant to people to want to come to the theater? And I think there is a couple things happening. I think there is the inherent spectacle of movies where there's, it's a Chris Nolan movie, it's a Jim Cameron movie, it's perhaps an extraordinary visual experience, which can be a horror movie or a visual effects phenomena, something in IMAX, things like that, that justify a theater experience where you almost feel that it wouldn't be right to see it at home. And I think that's going to become one of the challenges for marketeers in the next generation, which is, how do you get beyond people to make something cultural, and making something cultural has many different ways of happening, but it is absolutely essential today to find something that breaks through. I don't think that's true just in movies either. I think making something cultural can be true about a product, about a political message, about a musical event. But there is something very pure and human about people gathering together in a movie theater. And you know, the film business, despite the theatrical film business, you know, they said, you know, COVID was going to kill the theatrical film business. And in fact, the business has overall globally is about 20% less than it was during COVID. So it has been impacted, but it is still a massive thriving business, but the bar is very high. And so what we make and it becomes, you know, more challenging than ever.
You brought up a point
Yeah.
that I think is worth mentioning again to all of you. In years past, our number one job was to get people to go to movie theaters to see a movie. Important. It's changed, though. And what's changed it, and I bet you all have one, whether it's this brand or not, is this. The digital age changed everything. And today, our job is not about getting people to see a movie. It's part of it. But it's actually about getting them to leave their house. That's something we didn't have to ever think about. The digital age is an important tool, but it's an isolating tool. And because of that, people are not together. So our job now is doubly hard in the sense we've got to get people interested in our movie, but we actually have to get them to leave their house and go to the movie theater.
I think that's where IP probably is more important than ever. You know, the extraordinary success of movies that are breaking through are almost all IP now. In fact, last year there was an extraordinary phenomenon where 9 out of the top 10 films were actually were sequels. That's never happened before, and you want to be in a business where you can still make original movies. After all, all of the sequels were once original movies at one point. And so that's what's so exciting about these movies that have managed to break out. More recently, there's a very popular success in the U.S. called Weapons. Quite exciting as an original movie to be able to break through. The K-pop Demon Hunter breakthrough is an original piece of content. But IP is king, and that's why we've invested heavily in also anime. The Crunchyroll platform, which Sony owns, has been a great source for us of IP. I think that could be the next wave, the next Marvel, if you will, may come from anime, live action adaptations, and I would say also I just want to also democratize the process of finding ideas. We get ideas from everywhere possible, and I think to be a person who makes culture, whether you're making movies or making product, is to have this almost super visibility and awareness and open-mindedness to finding ideas. We sit around and brainstorm ideas. We buy original ideas. We buy books that we think could adapt into films. We buy true stories that we think could be adapted or fictionalized. And the idea of searching for IP really is, for any person in any creative field, is really absolutely critical to how the next generation of movies are going to get made.
But Sanford,
Yeah.
at the heart of what we do is we're storytellers. And no different than before technology was invented, before our iPhones, before everything, when people literally sat around the campfire and told stories and traded information, it's the same thing. It's still telling stories. So talk us a little about the process of going from an idea or a story. How does it one day become a movie?
So, you know, as I said, we search around for ideas. we do a tremendous amount of research as well. And we have an ecosystem in the company that allows ideas or talent, which is really the core of any creative company, is to support talented individuals, talented storytellers. So in the Sony ecosystem, as I mentioned, we have Crunchyroll. That's a place to source ideas, to engage with anime, whether it's to expand the distribution of anime that may not have an opportunity outside of Japan, or to use as an IP source to make Hollywood films. And there's the Sony Pictures motion picture company that does that. Then we have a television company as well that has many shows on the air. What's interesting about the television side of Sony is that because we don't own a streaming platform, we're actually the only studio without a streaming platform. Every other major legacy film studio owns a streaming platform, and therefore their mission is to find content and sell it to themselves. And so that's certainly what's unique about the television group, is that they can sell to anybody, almost as if they were producers. It puts Sony in a unique position on the television front. And then Sony owns PlayStation, the premier gaming platform. We've had some success recently with adapting PlayStation games. We had a film called Uncharted, starring Tom Holland, who we had a relationship with for making the Spider-Man films, that was based on a PlayStation game. I'm really excited about where game adaptation is going in the next few years. And then we have these film labels that each are specialists in their own way. Screen Gems is a genre label only dedicated to genre. And Columbia Pictures is for the bigger event films like Spider-Man or Jumanji, or big global films that are all released on the same day at the same all over the world. 3000 Pictures is a literary film label to adapt books. And it's a unique partnership with a publishing company. Sony Classics finds non-English language films and distributes them. They've had a terrific success with winning a lot of Oscars doing that. TriStar, kind of a prestige commercial film label. And we have a kind of a faith-based label we call with Affirm Films, that finds films that have some oftentimes very pro-values messaging. So that's kind of the infrastructure within the ecosystem that allows us to make movies. And what it does, it lets filmmakers who come into the system, who are interested in many different things. Filmmakers are incredibly creative. They want to find any environment where they can basically have any idea and not be restricted. And so what this unique ecosystem, this film ecosystem does, is it allows them to interact with specialists in whatever kind of movie that they would want to make. So that's kind of the structure there.
So we are both creators and storytellers, where we develop our own stories internally. We are also buyers. It could be a book that we're buying, it could be a script we're buying, it could be a package of all of that we're buying. And traditionally, our biggest competition has been Paramount and Disney, the other Hollywood studios, because we're all out for the best material that's available. But that's changed in the last few years, where streamers are now also competitors of ours. Netflix and Amazon and Apple, and they seemingly almost have unlimited money. How does that affect what we do in the picking and choosing and acquiring of properties?
I mean, it's a huge issue, because for the legacy studios, part of it also is the spend. You're talking about a spend, let's say Netflix alone, I think they announced $18 billion in content spending this year. There's never been that's roughly 18 times what a studio traditionally would spend. So that's just one streamer, never mind Apple and Amazon. The other challenge for us, as far as the marketplace goes with these streamers, not only are they, need incredible amount of content, are willing to spend for it, but they've come to realize that theatrical or theatricality, let's call it that word, meaning theater worthiness. That's what I call theatricality. That they've come to realize that that theatricality is actually important to bring extra value to their own streaming platform. So they've come to realize that if they can release the movie they've made, meant entirely for a streaming platform, in a theater first, even for a very short period of time, it will have more value on the platform. And what this has done is created and I think this is true in Korea as well, a shortened window, we call it, where the audience has a high level of perception that the theater is not going to have that movie for very long, which further makes a challenge to why you would go to the theater when you have a high awareness that it's going to come in your home on one of the streaming platforms very soon. So this is one of the illnesses of the film business right now, is not only do you have the kind of need for cultural breakthrough and how high that bar is, but you have an additional element of a shortened window, which further makes the audience, and I'm sure you could say this for yourselves too, really decide that many movies aren't worth seeing in the theater, that it's just easier to wait. So that's another significant challenge, and all the more need to, where you see sequels having a super value that they didn't have many years ago.
And streamers will overspend in a variety of ways. They might overspend to acquire, but they'll also overspend in what they're...
the production.
Absolutely.
Right.
You take a movie like F1 as an example. So F1, I don't know if you guys have seen it. I don't know if it opened in Korea yet, but F1
It did pretty well, I think, actually.
I know it's done globally very well, close to $650 million. But F1 is, and again, you should see it's a very good movie. We didn't make it, it's a very good movie. But F1 is a really good example of if we had made that movie and it had done the exact same amount, a big number, $600+ million, we as a company would have lost money. That's because streamers spend so much and spend in a different way. So
I thought it was interesting that they used it to their advantage. I saw something that was almost a publicity thing that was like, it's the most expensive, one of the most expensive movies ever made. And in a way, I think that made the audience feel that it might have been worthy.
I think you're right.
So that's an interesting thing about it kind of worked for them in some ways, even though the profitability would have been impossible for a traditional movie company.
But different things motivate in different ways, and you're absolutely right. The idea that you could see something that's the most expensive thing ever, people will want to see that because it's interesting. You want to see, why is that the most expensive? What makes that different than all other movies that have not cost as much? So there are many, many motivating factors that drive people to the movie theater. But I think one of the things that separates what we do from so many other things that are out there is going to a movie theater is still an experience. If you're at home and you're watching a piece of content, maybe with 2 people, 3 people, it's still not the same as being in a movie theater. If you're at a movie theater in a horror film, everybody's screaming together, and you might be with your date or your wife or your husband, and you want to grab each other and hold on. It's an experience. It's visceral. The same thing with a comedy. We all watch television and comedic things at home, and if you're with a couple people, it's funny, but it's not the same experience as laughing with 500 people.
I think the quality factors there too, right? Is that
I think so too.
That the need for it can't just be just a horror movie. It has to be a elevated horror movie, right? It has to be. There's been an experience recently with what we call auteur horror, which means a filmmaker, a really high-level filmmaker doing horror has really worked theatrically. There's a film in the U.S. Called the movie Weapons I mentioned, but there was this big, huge success in the U.S. with a movie called Sinners with director Ryan Coogler, who did the Marvel films, and so the idea of him he did Black Panther, the idea of him doing a horror film. We had our own success with a film called 28 Years Later, which was by the Oscar-winning director Danny Boyle, doing a zombie movie. So I wonder if that also has something to do with the theatricality
I think it
of the
does.
experience.
And I think it also relates to what filmmakers ultimately want. Most filmmakers want to see their movies in the biggest format possible. That's why they make them. They make them for movie theaters. And Sony is the only company committed to putting all of our movies in movie theaters in the first window. Obviously, the pandemic changed that a little bit, and we licensed to some streamers. But the most part, our movies start in movie theaters, in the biggest presentation possible. And a lot of filmmakers come to us because they know we're committed to that. They come to us because they want their creation to be in the biggest possible format. And sometimes, to be honest, we will lose the battle because of money, where a streamer will be willing to overpay for something. We will not, but we will still win the film. Because in the end of the day, they know that Sony Pictures has the best marketing and distribution and production team in the world. And that, in the creation of their child, if you will, is so important.
I also think the streaming movies almost feel sometimes like they kind of, it's sort of a tree falling in the forest. There's so much content and no marketing money is put behind it. That's the other fascinating thing about the movies on the streaming platform, is they aren't marketed at all. They just exist on the platform. And I think one of the significant differences for movies in the theater is, and this is true when movies fail too, they fail in a much louder way than they might otherwise because of a massive marketing campaign that's gone into the launch of the film. We'll sometimes spend on a marketing campaign as much as or more than the budget of the film itself globally, which I think is a great segue to talk really about what Jeffrey's area is, which is about the process of marketing and how, once the film is made, once we've found the idea, once we've developed the script, after we've researched and decide that it's a movie to make and it's cast in the right way with the right kind of, whether it's movie stars or director, after all that's happened, becomes this separate process of how you present that product, that brand, to the world. And that process has become incredibly sophisticated in today's world. And so I think it'd be good, Jeffrey, to maybe talk a little bit about the process
Sure.
of how that works.
Sure.
Yeah.
One of the key things we've learned over the last few years is that traditional means are not working. It's just not going to be the answer. You can make a lot of noise, but that's not the answer. You can spend a lot of money, but that's not the answer. The answer today is being clever as marketers, because as the title of our presentation talks about, it's about how do you break through. It's fine that you make great content, but if you don't break through and tell the audience about it, then they don't know what it's about. Sanford's point about streamers having many things that are not successful is true. We just don't know about it because they're releasing so much new content. And they are making it for so many different kinds of audiences, where we are very focused. Our movies must be made for an audience. Now, it could be a smaller audience, like a horror film, it's a very specific audience. Or it could be Spider-Man, where it's literally everybody, or Jumanji, or Ghostbusters, where it's literally everybody. But today, we have to start taking that into account. You must make the movie for somebody or everybody. You cannot just make it and say, okay, we'll make a good movie, and that's good enough.
I think the making movie for somebody is an interesting thing, because there's a saying in the film business, we say, which may be true in other businesses too, riches and niches, meaning, it's the audience is narrow and deep, and you can have a great success with a narrow and deep audience. Not every movie has to be for everybody. You could have a very core audience film, but you have to go deep to get them. It can't be a surface level film. And so maybe, sorry, Jeffrey, talk about that.
No, but I think that's a really point. And that's kind of where the marketing process begins for us. We are isolating what are the key messages that will work for which audiences. It might be that we have a movie where there needs to be 3 messages. We might have one message for teens, we might have one message for college plus, and we might have one message for 35 plus. Even in the same movie, but we're speaking to them about different things because we know that's what's going to attract them. We do spend a considerable amount of time on research to really understand the audience's appetite for a particular product. So we do a lot of legwork before we even get in to the marketing campaign. But there's several key areas that I just would like to tell you a little about in marketing. There are three groups at the studio, product placement, global partnerships, and consumer products, that are the first up to bat from a marketing standpoint. As Sanford and his team is producing the movie, making the movie, we will actually get activated in these three areas about 6 to 12 months prior to the movie starting production. In some cases, we might be starting a movie before it's even greenlit, but we have to do that to be prepared for what a movie might need. And that really starts with product placement, to be honest. And product placement's job is to seek products to fill any kind of scene that you would need. So if this was a movie scene, and we were in a movie right now, product placement would go out and get chairs, and they would get TV monitors, and they would get controllers, and they would get tables and tablecloths and water. They would get all of the things that would fill this arena to be what we needed to be in the movie. And that's a pretty significant job that both can offset costs, because if we get the product, we are often not paying for that product. If we get cars, things like that, the car companies will give the cars to us because they want to be in the movie. So that's kind of the first out of the gate. At the same time, global partnerships start. And global partnerships are really key, because as much as we will spend a lot of money making the movie and a lot of money marketing the movie, our goal is to penetrate culture. It goes back to that breakthrough idea. We must crack through so our audiences know about it. And what we call at Sony, the surround that we can do around a movie makes the movie feel like an event. So if you go to the grocery store and you see products with the movie logos, if you go to the gas station and you see on the pump an advertisement or a promotional relationship between a movie and a gas station, or you go to McDonald's, or you buy a Coca-Cola and there's characters on the cans, those are all really important things that, A, we could not afford to buy. We can't go to Coca-Cola and say, give us 100 million cans. How much would that cost us? They're not going to do it. But if we work a promotional relationship with them, those 100 million cans, or those 100 million Happy Meals that McDonald's makes, and that's literally how many they make. McDonald's, believe it or not, is the #1 toy company in the world. Well, you probably think, don't they make burgers and drinks and food? They do. But for their Happy Meal programs, they will produce between 80 and 100 million toys, and they do that every month, making them the #1 toy producer on the entire planet. So the things that we can use from promotional relationships with different partners, surround our movie with an event feel. And that's really our goal. We want to penetrate culture and penetrate your lifestyle.
It's interesting that the quality, in a way, when we're going to call the talk content is king, you could call it quality is king, because actually, I think in today's environment, with the level of competition coming from so much now, really the quality has become more important than ever. So originality is important, but quality is a breakthrough mechanism, I think, for the content itself or even the marketing.
I think you're right. It allows us to create cultural events because the quality is so high. And we continue to do that and strive for that. The final group, as I mentioned, that kind of gets started first in marketing is consumer products. So as you can see, we make a tremendous amount of products. Now, why is this important to us? Yes, it's a revenue source for the company, which is obviously very important. And it does engage more fanship because it allows all of you to purchase items related to an IP that you really like. And the other thing that it does in that quest for surround, if you go to Target or Walmart or Hot Topic, any kind of store, and you see our product, again, that makes it an event to you, especially because they usually have displays, and they'll have window displays, and they'll have big e-commerce plays on Amazon. All of those things make it feel like it's an event, and that's what we hope drives people to see it that first weekend, because they want to be part of that cultural conversation that people are having, and that only happens with big cultural events like movies. We then begin to get into other areas of marketing. The first is the creative group, who has a really difficult job, as you can imagine, in creating what they do. These are just some of the one-sheets that they have done. And as much as they are single images, I cannot tell you the amount of time and research that we put into finding the one piece of art that can really represent and sell the movie. And that's what we're looking for. We're looking for one piece that universally will have the greatest appeal. Eventually, we will make different pieces for different audiences. But the poster that you see in the movie theaters is what we call key art. This is art that we're going to use across the board around the world. So it's very important that it really sends the message of what we're trying to sell. Now, the creative group will also create trailers that you see in the movie theater. We also put those trailers online, as you know. They also create the television spots that eventually you see. So all of these different mechanisms that we are employing to make you aware of our movies kind of come from the creative group.
And what's also interesting about this list is it reminds me really about how much also discussion there is with the filmmakers themselves.
Yeah.
Because the filmmakers are your partners. The actors who are in the movie, especially the movie stars, are your partners. You're going to need them to help sell the movie and to get behind the film. So there's so much discussion also about getting them comfortable and them on board. And do they feel it's the message of the movie?
No,
so
I think
there's
you're
many
right.
things to navigate in terms of that.
Talk a little about it, if you would, because I think you bring up such an interesting point. We have such important relationships with filmmakers who often will bring us things, scripts, ideas for movies. Talk about that a little bit. Some producers we have deals with are actually based at Sony, which is great, like the latest being Tom Holland from Spider-Man. His company is based at Sony. Talk a little about that, how valuable and important the relationships are that we have with directors and producers and people who create the content.
Well, I think that's the balance, right? It's the old saying about the film business, art versus commerce, right? In the end of the day, it is the film business. It is show business, but you want to be able to be a place where the creative art can exist without constantly thinking about how the film is going to recoup its investment. And that's really a relationship with the filmmaker so that they can make the film that they envision and have the creative expression that the art itself deserves, but at the same time being able to make a story, make a brand, make a product, all kind of dirty words for a purist filmmaker sometimes, but to have that balance so that ultimately the film can be a global success. And I think that's the kind of the trick of managing creativity, which is really what the job of studio executives are. It's managing creativity. It may be managing creativity for talented marketeers who make the ad. That's actually a special, incredibly talented skill to be able to do that, to come up with the visuals of what sells the idea of the movie in a single image, or manage the creativity of a writer or director who really just wants to sell present you their story and find a way to sell that to the world. So I think that's that's the essence of the jobs in some ways. Yeah.
I think there's also a trust factor that comes into
Absolutely.
To play. And Sanford and his team have such strong relationships with film creators because sometimes it will take years to develop something. Sometimes it's a little quicker, especially if it's an original IP or if it comes from just an article. It takes us a lot of time to actually develop the property and develop the script. So having a trust with filmmakers seems like a really important
you think about how old the Ghostbusters franchise is and how long that's lasted. Bad Boys was 17 years before the last movie. Yep. 28 years later was 25 years. between films. That's more than, I can see some of the people in this audience older than you are between movies. So that Jumanji is a reinvention of a film from what, the
20 years ago, the one with Robin Williams.
yeah. So it's, I think that gestation and the level of care that goes into these IPs is really, there's no accident that's why some of them have been able to break through.
Yeah, no, I think you're absolutely right. In addition to the creative group getting started, and this kickoff as the second phase really starts once we begin to get an idea of the movie. The movie's now in production, so we begin to get an idea. We actually look at things called dailies. And dailies, by definition, is the footage that we have shot each day. So wherever we are shooting a movie in the world, and we do shoot all around the world, we could be in London, we can be in Budapest, we can be in Vancouver, we get every single day the dailies, all the footage that is shot. That gives us an idea of being able to get a feeling of how the movie is being made and maybe certain standout things we didn't expect. But it's so important that we are watching what is being made every day. And when you've got 10 movies in production, you can't fly everywhere in the world every single day. So we watch the dailies. And years ago, the dailies actually came on film. And we would go, I remember this so distinctly at Fox, we would go down to a screening room. And the dailies would come on actual film, and we would watch the dailies on film. Today it comes digitally, which makes it a little easier. But it's so important especially for Sanford and his team, all of us as marketers to begin to get an idea, but for Sanford and his team to really be able to watch everything that they are creating in real time. Very important. So the digital team begins to kick off about a year or so before the movie is going to be released. And as you can imagine, digital has grown tremendously in the last 15 years. From something that was a quirk, to be honest, we started digital marketing at 20th Century Fox. We were the first studio to do digital marketing, at a time when the internet and the digital was just kind of coming into to be. But what they do is so important because today influencers have been crucial to what we do. I assume all of you have different people that you follow who are influencers. Some of you maybe have 100, some of you may have 5. But the messaging coming from an influencer is so important because you have self-selected, chosen to have a relationship with them. And if Mr. Beast, as an example, if you're familiar with him, one of the largest guys on the internet, talks about a movie, is almost an endorsement factor that comes with that, which is really, really crucial to what we do. Word of mouth, which literally was described back in the day as somebody telling somebody about something, today it's morphed into a digital means. Even if I see a movie that I'm going to tell Sanford about, I'm going to text him. So I'm going to use a digital means. If we're together, we might talk about it. But that's where the digital mechanisms have become so important. And what's great about our guys is they create things. They don't just take the clips of a movie or an interview of a movie. We do that as well and put that out.
And that's why I see you've got these digital, these big influencers.
They're huge with their reach, can often be tens of millions. But it's important that, again, in the idea of content being king, that we're creating things that are different. So you might have seen a movie called Insidious, which we're in the midst of about to start the 6th one. Insidious is such a successful horror franchise. And in Insidious, there's a big red door. So we took that red door to different places, and we had people go in a booth, and we recorded their reaction when the monsters came out. And that reaction went on the internet, and it became viral because it was genuine. That's such an important thing. Authenticity today is crucial to being successful in marketing. The audience needs to believe that it's authentic. So when we take and create like the Insidious booth that we did, the reactions from the people are real. They're not actors. We did a program with Starbucks. I know you have Starbucks here in Korea, of course. We did a program with Starbucks for Spider-Man which was really interesting. And basically what happened was we took an actual Starbucks over, and people would come in and they would order, I'd like a Frappuccino, a macchiato, and then once in a while the barista would say, latte for Spider-Man, and you would see in the reaction everybody looking around, what is that? What do you mean Spider-Man? Whose name is Spider-Man? And all of a sudden, from the ceiling comes Spider-Man in full costume. And the reason that video, and we recorded all day long, so we captured hundreds of people's reaction. People being surprised, people being spooked out, people being scared. But the reactions were so genuine. They were authentic because they were not actors. We did not create it. We created the platform by working with Starbucks, but all of the reactions were real. And authenticity travels today in the digital format.
I mean, it seems like, just as we wrap up, that it's innovation too, right? So it's innovation
Absolutely.
of ideas, it's innovation of where the storytelling can come from, but it's innovation in the marketing as well. And I think those are the, I think as we wrap, those are the key messaging, I think, too.
If there's one thing we can tell you,
Yeah.
it's be confident in your boldness. It's okay to be bold. You have to be bold to stand out. You have to be innovative to stand out. You also have to fail sometimes, and that's okay. If you're going to be inventive in what you do, and you're going to try to break through and crack new ground every single time, then it's going to have to be okay to fail once in a while, because we are in a risk business. And a pro-risk business, either you really like that or not.
And I think the digital world now gives you the ability to fail. You can try an ad that doesn't work. It doesn't matter. There's going to be another one. So I think that's one of the nice things. So thank you.
We can talk forever because we love what we do, to be honest. We are incredibly passionate about it. I'm not sure there's anybody that works in the movie or TV or music business that's not passionate about what they do, which is why we're happy to be here today and happy to talk to you.
Yeah.
We would love to take more questions, but due to the other commitment of our speakers, we have to wrap up this session.
Great.
Thank you very much for the
Thank you.
insightful discussion. We highly appreciate gracing us with your presence. So ladies and gentlemen, why don't you give them a warm round of applause?
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.